The downfall of the virtuous Todd Connelly. 12,000 steps. Todd Connelly adjusted his face shield to read the encouraging numbers on his fitness tracker. He had achieved his walking target for the day, and he would still have to walk back home. What a productive day. Today was the day to celebrate, and Todd had reached the venue for his celebration, Fatty's Burgers in La Perouse. He would celebrate his 12,000 steps by eating a family meal deal consisting of 8 patties, a 1.25 liter bottle of Diet Cola, and a large bucket of chips for $29.95. Coincidentally, this meal had 12,000 kilojoules of nutrition, which was perfect numerical symmetry. Todd's weight also blended with the perfect symmetry as he weighed a massive 120 kilos. The only thing missing from the symmetry was Todd's height. In a perfect world, he would be 220 centimeters tall, as that would put him within the healthy range with his current weight. But as this wasn't a perfect world, Todd was merely 175 centimeters tall and morbidly obese. Todd didn't reflect on his obesity. He followed all the health guidelines from the New South Wales Department of Health. He wore his mask with glee, and he lined up to take the new COVID vaccines as they were released. Today he had his 5th shot, and this, in combination with his long walk, made him extra deserving of a greasy feast. Todd took off his face shield as he entered the shop. He realized how illogical this was, but he deserved to show his face on this day, as he had fulfilled his civic duty as a proud Australian. Besides, the blue sky and the hot sun had made him sweat uncontrollably, and the hypoxia from the double masking made him out of breath. The proprietor of the burger shop, Thaddeus Abdul, smiled and spoke as Todd approached the till. "Hello, Todd. I haven't seen your face for a while. Is everything all right?" "Yes, I feel great. It sure is hot out there, isn't it?" Todd replied, while puffing his breath. "Indeed it is. Bloody oath, must be over 30 degrees, Thaddeus replied. "Yeah, it is because of global warming. I'm telling you, during the last ice age, 30-degree days were rare in Sydney," Todd replied, with sweat pouring down his neck and back. "I can only imagine. Do you want your usual?" Thaddeus asked. "Yes, give me a family meal deal. I'm celebrating," Todd replied cheerfully. "I see, brah. What is the occasion?" Thaddeus asked. "I had my 5th COVID vaccine, and I'm feeling great," Todd replied. "I see. That will be $29.95. I'll have the family meal deal ready in 15 minutes, Thaddeus replied. Todd nodded happily, tapped the EFTPOS terminal with his debit card, and got himself seated. He took a few deep breaths of the grease-filled air at Thaddeus Burgers. The smell of the burgers filled him with anticipation and excitement. In 15 minutes, his taste buds would experience a slice of heaven as he received a well-deserved satisfaction for his hunger. At the Australian Parliament in Canberra, a sudden thunderstorm created a spooky atmosphere as Prime Minister Scary Morissette met with Chief Medical Officer Patrick Riley. Patrick Riley had forwarded a memorandum that the 5th COVID vaccine was toxic. A secret Department of Health report linked 6,000 fatalities to the latest vaccination campaign. Despite the low uptake, deaths were higher than for the previous vaccination campaigns, and Scary couldn't allow the truth to get out. Not only his political career, but his health and well-being were on the line if the sheep found out the truth. Patrick bowed to Scary and spoke. "I came as quickly as I could, Prime Minister Morissette." Scary studied Patrick in silence for a long time before he finally spoke. "Is the study accurate? Did 6,000 people die from GeneVac's COVID-22 vaccine?" "Well, I'm afraid so. We could retract it and make it confidential," Patrick replied. "It doesn't matter. I cannot go through with the vaccination campaign if the vaccine is this deadly. I might be a corrupt corporate lapdog, but I'm not a genocidal madman," Scary exclaimed. "So, what do you suggest, Prime Minister? Should I instruct the Department of Health to publicize the study?" Patrick asked. "Of course not. But we need to run a massive campaign to make people forget about the vaccination campaign. I want obesity, to be the new target. Scurry instructed. I see. How would you suggest that we do this? Patrick asked. We will follow our COVID approach and run a campaign based on fear-mongering and shaming people into compliance. It is time to resolve our obesity crisis once and for all, Scurry said and smirked while stroking a red book on his desk. Patrick stood silently while Scurry laughed his extended menacing laughter. As Scurry stopped laughing, Patrick spoke. So, have you decided on your first target for anti-obesity campaign? I have a long list of vaccine and lockdown skeptics we can target. Scurry shook his head and replied, I won't target those groups. That would only affirm that there's a problem with the fifth round of vaccinations. My primary target would be Todd Connelly. Todd Connelly? But he is the strongest supporter for lockdowns and forced vaccinations. Patrick objected. Exactly. So he is the perfect target if we want to switch the narrative to the dangers of obesity. The sheep will never know better, and we will attribute all the vaccine deaths to obesity. It is time for Australians to get fit, or face persecution and fat shaming on social media. Scurry revealed. I see. Shall I send my public health officers to capture Todd? Patrick asked. They are already on the way. I leave nothing to change, Scurry said, poured himself a scotch, and lit a cigar to celebrate his latest villainous plan. Todd realized that he was getting slow at eating, as the last 2 burgers of his family pack had gone cold when he ate them. He burped loudly. Were 6 patties and a large pack of chips enough to satisfy his hunger, or should he push himself and eat the last 2 burgers? Todd was interrupted when 2 health enforcement officers entered the burger shop. Todd Connelly, where is your family? One of the enforcers said with a strict and commanding voice. Todd was nonplussed by this question. If they knew his identity, they would know that he was single, so why did they ask? I don't have a family. I came here alone. Why do you ask? Todd replied nervously. My question was to verify your liability of criminal offenses. Fadiz Abdul claims to have sold you a family pack of burgers. Is this correct? The health enforcer asked. Yes, but I don't understand anything. What is this about? Todd replied. The health enforcer pulled out a tablet and showed it to Todd. Todd looked at the heading. Obesity Emergency Law. The enforcer spoke. We are seeing a spike of obesity-related deaths in Australia. Last month, we saw 6,000 excess deaths due to obesity alone. This is why our Prime Minister and Chief Medical Officer co-signed this new law. The law enables health enforcement officers to detain people for up to 2 weeks due to overeating issues. Todd flashed from anger and exclaimed, This is preposterous! I haven't done anything! Todd Connelly, the lockdown advocate, speaking up for civil liberties. Where was that spirit when we were locking up people for contacting or being in close contact with someone contracting COVID? You're coming with us, buddy, the health officer mocked. The health officer's statement left Todd speechless. He stared in terror as more enforcers entered the venue, grabbed him, and dragged him to an unmarked white van. Todd stared in awe at the billboards as he was sitting in a bus, taking him to an undisclosed location in the wilderness. On the billboards, secret footage from the burger shop showcased his face as he was stuffing himself with a large burger. Words like shame, disgrace, and protect our public health were highlighted in red on the billboards. There was also a short fine print stating the estimated number of deaths that would occur if the government didn't take a heavy-handed approach to tackle the obesity epidemic. The most heartbreaking moment was when Todd tried to access his spammer, CountenanceNet, and SlowPick accounts. All his social media accounts were banned and stated that Todd represented a public health danger. The fact-checkers on his social media accounts had determined most of his activity to be fraudulent. Todd sighed. At some level, he realized the dangers of the cancel culture that he had been an advocate for. Yet, he didn't grasp the extent of his crimes. However, he was now on the receiving end of the very evil he had been an avid supporter of. As Todd arrived at the fitness center in the wilderness, he had a terrible realization. This was the Canowindra Quarantine Center, where the government had sent people determined to be COVID risks. Todd remembered how he had touted the masked enforcers of the center as heroes, but times had changed. The new enforcers were maskless army men with bulging muscles. As Todd and the other prisoners exited the bus, the commandant of the center spoke. "Welcome to the Kevin Fitness Center. We will hold you here as long as you pose a risk to public health by promoting unhealthy habits through your physiques and actions. Don't worry, if you comply with our guidelines, you can be out of here in as little as 2 weeks." The commandant walked off, and one of the guards approached Todd with a drone in his hand and spoke. "Mr. Connelly, my name is Matthew Irons. To ensure the safety of you and our nation, I am your dedicated trainer and supervisor. To motivate you further, I will program a drone to follow you 24/7. Please come with me." Todd was too tired and hungry to argue, so he came with Matthew to the canteen. A large buffet lunch was served to the prisoners. Matthew spoke. "Help yourself to the food, Mr. Connelly. Courtesy of the Australian government, Canberra." Todd felt baffled by the wide availability of food. This was the last thing he had expected from a government-mandated fitness center. He wouldn't reflect on it twice though, so he rushed to the buffet to help himself. Todd realized that he shouldn't have overeaten when Matthew came up to him after the buffet and screamed, "You fat pig! You're 3,000 calories over your allowed daily intake. You better work that off straight away, Todd." Matt and a few other enforcers led Todd to the center of the camp. Matt handed him a shovel and spoke. "This is your punishment for your transgressions. You better dig a hole and fill it again until you have burnt off all the extra calories you gorged yourself with." "But it's 40 degrees outside. Can't I burn them off later?" Todd objected pleadingly. "When it comes to public health, mandates and punishments are the only way to go. I'm sure that rings a bell." Matt mocked. Todd nodded, grabbed the shovel, and started digging. He didn't get far before he collapsed from a massive heat stroke. Matthew approached Todd, poured a bucket of icy water over him, and exclaimed, "Get up, Todd! That is only 200 calories that you have burnt off. You are not getting out of your punishment by faking a heat stroke. Remember what you used to say. There was no excuse for not wearing double face masks." Todd got up and resumed his digging. He got a bit longer before the next collapse came, but it inevitably happened, and Matt repeated the procedure by pouring more icy water on Todd. This continued for 6 hours until Todd had served the punishment for his transgression. Todd was looking at his former social media accounts from a read-only view. Hateful and derogatory comments about him filled the accounts. Some people even called him a murderer for setting an unhealthy example and disrespecting the rules of the camp. A picture of Todd, where he gorged himself on the fitness camp's buffet, had received 18,000 dislikes and numerous death threats. How would he ever come back from this? Todd realized that his life was over. He had lived to spread hate and fear under the guise of controlling COVID and pursuing social justice. Cancel culture and social media had turned against him, and there was nothing to live for any longer. Having come to this realization, Todd turned a bedsheet into a strangulation cord and hung himself from the ceiling in his cell. Rest in peace, Todd. A few months later, Scary Morissette was meeting with Chief Medical Officer Patrick Riley. "Did you resolve the issue with our 5th deadly COVID vaccine?" Scary asked Patrick. "Yes, we replaced the vaccine in the syringes with saline solution. No one is going to die from this placebo vaccine. We will continue our mandatory vaccine campaign and give placebo vaccines to keep up with appearances," Patrick replied. "But won't a lot of people get COVID and die without a vaccine?" Scary asked. "A lot of people will get COVID, but only a few will die. Obesity is the biggest factor when it comes to COVID mortality, and we are on the way to solving the obesity crisis," Patrick replied. "I still don't like the prospect of a lot of people catching COVID. It will discredit my vaccination campaign," Scary complained. "No one will test positive for COVID. We have rigged the test to always showcase a negative result. The 5th vaccination campaign with GeneVax will go down as your greatest achievement, Mr. Prime Minister," Patrick said. "Let me guess that GeneVax vaccine manufacturing company paid you well for covering up the lethality of the vaccine," Scary asked slyly. "Yes, but the money will trickle down to you as well. Sit tight. As long as there's sickness in the world, there is money to be made for both of us," Patrick replied. "You are a genius, Patrick. This is worthy of a celebration," Scary said, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, and called his contacts at the Millsong Group to bring them some young females as company. This would be an achievement to celebrate. The end.